Welcome to part 2. We're excited you're here to continue the conversation with us. Let's dive right in and pick up where we left off.
And it's complementary to all that ad tech stuff that I'm seeing out there. So yeah, do it. And then I didn't hear anything back for a couple of weeks. And then he called me and said, look, we're going to invest. Thanks again for your help. And one of the angels dropped out. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, like, how does this work? What do you need? And he said, well, I need 50,000 euros the day after tomorrow. And I was like, okay, that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And if that's gone, I will definitely feel that.
Yeah.
Until 2 days, I think I need to make a few calls on my bank and said, look, I'm happy to do it, but I'll do it with others. So we pooled money with a lot of like old colleagues. Everyone put in 10K, and then we did that investment. And because it was very early stage, I also had the opportunity to actually sit in the advisory board, and I learned a lot. It was a wild ride. The startup was really successful, but lots of stuff happened. And that really, that got me addicted to that kind of work and investment. Here again, I realized that, look, I know quite a bit of stuff that is helpful, even for an experienced founder like Misha, how to structure sales in the B2B SaaS space, how to differentiate products for different customers, and obviously funneling some potential customers towards the company. So I ended up investing in a couple of more. I do B2B SaaS only with or without AI, but it's pretty much everything with AI these days.
Yeah.
And I look at, and I do tag alongs. So the due diligence does AVC. And I do look at the team and the product. And if I'm convinced of that, then I try to get a ticket. And when I look at the teams, I always look at potential complementary teams. Like, do they have different skill sets? Are they a little diverse?
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
And the diversity aspect, this would be something if you could highlight it, because people hear it a lot and then don't really understand, in my opinion, what diversity really means in regard of complementary skill sets.
Yeah.
Especially what you are looking for. There's no thing that everyone's going to check out, but what are your key aspects of diversity in a team? You can take your examples, for instance, if you want to highlight. Tim, for the suitcase, for instance, was here for the podcast as well.
Okay, great.
Amazing guy. Maybe this could be an example.
Yeah. You know what? I would like to give you a different example at the beginning, and then talk about the teams that I invested in. Because I think the most I learned about teams was as a rapper. Believe it or not, because I was not a solo rapper, I was part of a band.
Yeah.
And we were different personalities. We had also some different backgrounds. And I definitely was not the best rapper. I was good at organizing stuff. I did all the bookings, organizing the events and the concerts. And others were the better rappers. And I realized that later, but I realized that if everyone would have been like me, we would have been super organized. Everyone would have been punctual for training, Probe. But we would never have been as successful because others were just much better at rapping and singing, obviously. So we had a female singer and rapper. We had a male singer. We had me and another rapper, a drummer, and then someone producing the beats. So a startup team ideally is a bit like a band. Yes, you need a front singer. You need someone who's on stage and present and is loud and vocal about the startup. But you also need the guys in the back, the guys doing the drums, the guy who's building the beats and making the music, and then you need some vocals. So I think that's a nice analogy, because whether it be a band or a soccer team, you can't only have one type of team member. You need different team members. And when I look at the teams that I invested in, there are people like Tim, obviously, who has a legal background. And really understands law. And he built a great solution. Actually, I think he doesn't really see it that way, but I think he's actually building a tool that's making lawyers obsolete.
Yeah, same. I agree.
And he doesn't really want to hear that. But I told him, Tim, actually, you're trying to sell this tool to lawyers.
Yeah,
but that's not your target audience. You need to sell it to companies who don't want to employ lawyers and pay for them.
Yeah.
I think he's finally getting it. And then I would argue that Tim is great at understanding all the legal aspects, but he's got some, or he maybe needs some help in selling and distributing what he's building with his team. Yeah. And you just said that I'm helping startups with my money. Actually, I think I'm more helping them with my experience. The money is just
your buy-in.
My buy-in. Yeah. The ticket just for the seat at the table, but also showing my commitment. Yes.
It's a resource, basically.
Yeah. My investment with User-Centrics was basically, okay, Misha Rup and the other guy, the CTO, is now left. A great team, great idea, great market, good. Then I invested in a company with a solo founder.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that was something I would avoid in the future, I think.
Okay.
He's really knowledgeable, a really great guy. However, even I ask myself, or ask my team members sometimes, how can I make sure that our team passes the bus test?
I was referring to that one.
Do you know the bus?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So what happens if me or someone on my team gets run over by a bus?
Yeah.
I mean, that's harsh, but it can happen.
It's risk assessment in its core.
Yes.
For your investment. Yeah.
So what about business continuity? And with the solo founder, that is always an issue. And in this case, unfortunately, he actually has some health issues. And that was a business threat, or threat to the business. And now we hired a new CEO. The founder stepped down. He's still working in the background.
Yeah.
That can cause a whole lot of other problems, because letting go is hard for someone who's really put their lifeblood into a business. So solo founders, tricky, probably wouldn't do it again. I'm still bullish about Lunio's business, but that can cause issues. So be aware of that. And then obviously what's always good is if the founder or the founding team has a track record of already building one or two startups. I mean, that is the Premier League.
Yeah.
If you get an opportunity to invest in someone who's already built one or two successful startups, that's always great.
I guess that's basically the natural thing, yeah? Because you have people that they have already passed some tests, like how to deal with failure A, B, C, how does the team work when something's not working well. Yeah. You have all these things that are really basic. Yeah. So this is your competition. If you have to decide, do I invest into a team that already got experience, or the ones that are they're basic, it's something to take into consideration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you think about it in your career as a founder yourself, joining, working with YouTube, working with Google, do you think there was, or do you feel that there was a bit of a change from your perspective in wanting to, that you want to support teams, new founders during your career? Yeah, because you started basically in a corporate setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, this wouldn't be something like, hey, go to startups, let's support them. Maybe. It's up to you. What's the situation? Was there a bit of a change, or maybe an aha effect, a specific point in time when you realized I want to do that? Or did it just happen through 10 years of...
It's a good question. I'm not really sure. What I can tell you is that I've always been interested in helping young people, even while I was still fairly young myself. So I got a certificate from the IHK in Hamburg as Ausbilder vor Ort. And I took care of apprentices while I was still working for AOL.
Okay.
Back in the times when
still a thing. Yeah.
So I did that. I also, when I then moved from Hamburg to Munich, at some stage I became a coach for athletics. Track and field athletics.
Yeah.
So I did that. So I really always enjoyed engaging with younger people, trying to pass on some of my knowledge, but also seeing them thrive. And then when you get kids of your own, It's also, I mean, great to see him grow up, make the first steps, not like figuratively speaking, but literally. And then at some stage, then growing up, expanding their radius and world. And maybe the part of me helping startups is also due to never really having worked in a startup. If I regret one thing, it's never having worked in a startup in the sense of raising from a VC, growing a super scalable business. I founded small companies, but I never worked in a startup. And that's maybe a bit of a blank spot I'm trying to fill here by helping startups.
Yeah. Well, so do you think this would have changed something? Like working in a startup, what do you think would have changed in your life? What kind of experience do you think you lack? Is it more emotional ones or?
Well, I guess I would have even more gray hair if I worked 2 or 3 years in a startup, right? That's a high-paced environment.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, working at AOL back in the 2000s and working for Google 15 years ago, it felt a little like working in a large startup, but obviously there were already corporations. But so I got the gist of it. But just now, the credibility of having worked in an ideally successful startup and now trying to help startups and sell something to startups, I think that would go a long way.
Yeah. You're mentioning speed, agility and stuff like that. Yeah. So as you just mentioned it, like you have 15 years of experience now, almost 15 years. How?
I think almost 15.
Almost 15.
Count.
Yeah. Of, let's say, speed change of how a startup developed or how a company developed in the past 15 years. How would you describe that acceleration currently? Like really about the 15 years.
Yeah.
What happened and what's happening now?
Yeah, that was it was an amazing journey. So starting at Google in the DoubleClick space, that was already some kind of disruption within the disruptor because everyone was selling Google Ads, but we were selling the SaaS business software and we were the odd kids on the block. But we were really disrupting the industry because when I sold online ads at AOL, I was waiting for the fax machine to spit out a contract with my buyer. And that changed by offering these platforms that automated a lot of that stuff. And I remember that like maybe 10 years ago, the motto at Google, or maybe even 15 years ago, was mobile first. And that credo was being repeated year after year. And it took quite some time till the mobile queries actually surpassed the desktop queries. Now it's much bigger than desktop.
Yeah.
And then once that was achieved, and that was probably 10 years ago, all of a sudden our leaders said, now we're going AI first. And
when was this again? Roughly.
Probably 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Yeah, a really long time ago.
Yeah, this is something I really like to highlight. Like the AI thing that happens is we have the Attention is All You Need paper from 2017, where a lot of things already were kind of obvious, but this goes even farther back. Yeah, like the AI first as a credo. Yeah, for 10 years ago.
I mean, that just it gives you an idea how smart these guys were. Yeah. Right? Larry and Sergey, and then later Eric and obviously Sundar.
Yeah.
Because they realized that this is the next major shift in technology. And we did a lot of groundbreaking work in the research space. Our teams, they published papers on
You talk about Google research.
Yes, Google research. So Google did a lot of underlying research for AI and built a foundation of a lot of companies that are out there now. And then maybe, and that's just me, not speaking officially for Google, maybe we got stuck in the innovator's dilemma for a couple of years because we did all this work. We invented a lot of this stuff. We built it into all of our products, like Gmail. There was AI in Gmail. There was AI in YouTube video recommendations. Everyone was supposed to integrate AI in our products, but we didn't make it available to the public. We did sell it to enterprises via Google Cloud, but we didn't put it in the hands of consumers for a couple of reasons. I don't want to speculate.
No, but there's always reasons for decision making.
Yeah.
This was the situation. Yeah.
And then someone else did it.
Yeah.
And that really accelerated things internally.
Yeah.
Because, yes, 15 years ago, everything was much faster at Google. Then we got big and processes and stuff. And all of a sudden, I see this real acceleration of product releases, stuff that we are pumping out at the last Google I/O.
Yeah.
I was watching it. I was amazed. At the same time, I was also afraid of how am I going to sell all this stuff to my customers?
Yeah.
It's just so much and it's not stopping. So I feel now is this huge mothership has really set course and is accelerating, and
it's a bit out of control in regard of it's not controllable because it's so multifaceted, I think. Yeah. Like control, I don't mean in regard of threatening.
Yeah.
More like just from my perspective. I'm a user. I'm giving a lecture at LMU about no low-coding AI tools, cultural heritage, actually, digital cultural heritage, showcasing them what kind of tools are available to deal with issues, problems within their specific space.
Yeah.
And I'm doing basically full-time of being in touch with startups developing cool new tools, and I cannot keep up.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
It's really hard, especially even for the startups to have the latest model. It's really important in developing their stuff. And this is something I would say it's out of control in regard of I cannot be at the very edge and have something static. So it's always in flux currently, changing all the time. Yeah. And this is what I see in regard of the acceleration process that's happening there, that when not being open source with the material, not being outside there, it's more controllable, even as a company, I guess, as a corporate. But now, lots of players around. What's your perspective on that?
Look, about the control thing. In the perspective of the consumer, I think Google might have been slow in releasing stuff. I would argue we were careful.
Yeah.
And that's a difference, right?
Yeah.
We're careful because putting these tools in the hands of consumers things can go wrong. Right. And we have a brand to protect and a reputation to protect. So we don't want things to go wrong because Google is a trusted brand. The results you get from search are high quality and you expect the same thing from our AI.
Yeah.
So others went ahead and made some mistakes and we, I think, tried to avoid. It's the same with self-driving cars. I mean, we've been at it for more than 10 years and we're now, in I would say, we have a working prototype, actually have a pretty well-working product with Waymo, but it took us quite some time because also we were careful.
Yeah.
So I would argue we're still in control of what we're doing, but the whole industry is obviously moving very fast, so it's hard to keep up with stuff. I'm assuming that your lecture, what you're telling your students this year, will be outdated next year.
It already is. Yeah.
Already is. Yeah. So I think we're witnessing something that has the potential of a disruption like the invention of agriculture, before that fire, language, agriculture. It's going to be bigger than the internet.
Yeah.
And was it yesterday? I think yesterday I talked to someone that said, hey, we're now seeing AI being used and replacing maybe jobs or tasks that we're currently doing. We haven't really seen anything new. Like Amazon was only possible because of the internet. What Amazon is out there we don't even know about yet because it's only possible with AI. That's going to be super exciting.
Yeah.
Coming back to YouTube, when I was head of gaming at YouTube during Corona, gaming content exploded. Yeah. Now I see all this AI-generated content coming up, and it's super funny sometimes. I love have you seen the Stormtrooper vlogs?
Yeah.
I love it. It's right down my alley. It's I guess it's a question of taste, but YouTube's going to be flooded with AI content.
Yeah.
And we're giving these creative tools into the hands of people, and we don't even know what they're going to do with it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And Google offers amazing opportunities for startups in particular to start to work with these tools. Yeah, like you have to be in a school, educational content regarding how to use this kind of stuff. And I was wondering, because of your experience with startups in the past 15 years, if you could explore if you can see a change or a shift in startups using these tools that are available and at their disposal. Just a bit of a spoiler or what I experienced in hackathons. We worked together in hackathons in Munich, in Berlin as well, next week actually.
Yeah, with the pool.
Yeah, with the pool, yeah. And what I see is that these tools available are not really used at their full capacity to explore early stage startup ideas and to challenge them. There's at least something I would argue. I was wondering how you see it. Are these tools available or used by startups? Do they used for the same processes, or do they change their approaches? Because for me, this is the fundamental thing of how a company in the future is going to work. Like agent systems is something that's very obvious, yeah. But how is your perspective on that?
So, from a helicopter perspective, I would say just look at the unicorns out there and the number of employees they have. And the trend is towards less employees. I'm really waiting for the first unicorn with one employee. Yeah. And that's only possible because so many things are out there, so many tools are out there that make it super easy to build a business. During the new economy, you didn't have hyperscalers that offered cloud services. You had to buy your own servers and put them in your basement. Huge investment. Now you can just start a business on a platform of your choice. You can use AI tools to automate a lot of stuff. And really, the time of startups hiring like crazy is probably over, because many jobs will just be replaced by AI. So when you look at startups with high valuations and how their number of employees developed over the years, course of time, it's decreasing. So that tells me they must be doing something with AI, because otherwise it just wouldn't be feasible.
Yeah. So successful startups, you would expect to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's totally okay to build a business on someone else's AI. Not every startup that has AI in their business plan needs to develop their own. Actually, that's crazy. I mean, that's so resource intensive. Yeah. You shouldn't do it. Yeah. You should use what's out there, customize it for your use case, and then build something that's actually helping your customers. So build on top of stuff. Yeah. That's also one of the reasons why startups need less people, less developers. And yes, of course, they should use tools like Copilot, Code Assist, Jules, what have you, for coding. It's a good startup. I think there are two components of a successful startup. It's obviously the idea and the execution. When you talk to founders, the ones that are really successful have no problem sharing their idea. And I've talked to a couple of founders that I asked, look, do I need to sign an NDA? Or and they said, no, no need, because the idea, even if someone else takes the idea, it's all about the execution. And if you're not super invested in the idea, you will never invest as much time and energy as I will in executing it. And that really made something click here. Yeah. Because you can have lots of great ideas, but then actually executing on them, that's what is tough, right?
And which comes back to, can the team actually manage and are dedicated of doing it? And then the defensibility comes to it, of course.
Of course, that helps. But then again, defensibility can also mean that you were just faster.
Yeah, or you're the only person who can do it because of X, Y, Z.
Ideally, that's obviously a great defensibility. But just being faster with your go-to-market can also be a defensible asset of your startup. And when that founder told me, look, no NDA needed, it's my idea, but I'm the only one who can execute it.
Yeah.
It's the same with writing books, actually. You have this idea and then you're scared to share it because you are scared that someone else might steal it and write that story. No one's going to write your story, because unless you've already published it and it was super successful, someone's going to copycat it.
Yeah.
But you can only be passionate about your own story, right? Yeah. If I tell you today that I'm writing a book on AI and it's involving 3 detectives that are still in their youth, you might get the idea of what I'm writing, but you won't be able to do it because it's not your idea. You're not passionate enough about it to do it, and especially not faster than I will. So share your ideas. I think about sharing ideas, the beauty of sharing ideas is that you get feedback, you get others that might help you with actually making this idea a reality. And this place where we are today is great for sharing ideas and getting people together to work on ideas. So go out there, tell everyone about what you're doing and get their input and feedback.
Yeah, as fast as possible.
Ideally,
fast. You want to show something because you cannot. It's a bit of a story that we see a lot, but I don't dare yet to showcase or to show what I have.
Yeah.
And you only can tell them, but you should, because you cannot assess everything. You don't have the information about everything.
Yeah.
Take that, embrace that situation. It's not bad. No one has all knowledge about anything. Check out what's out there. Get the information.
Daniel Kraus from Flixbus, he said, if you're not ashamed of the first product that you're releasing, you waited too long.
I quote this all the time. Every single the pool event, when people not daring of showing what they want to do, then you need more time. Yes, this is the wrong answer. You want to show now, because even if it's just a napkin with something, it's a good prototype is when you get feedback for it.
Yeah, you need feedback from customers.
Yeah.
A great philosopher of the 20th century once said, everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face. Mike Tyson. Also in here, and I love the quote, because you need you have this business plan, you build this product, and then you meet the enemy, which is the customer, and they tell you, this is crap, I can't use it this way, I need it this to that way. So you need feedback, and you need to be fast. I was close to investing in a startup with the VC, and I was helping the founder to write a business plan and then ask the right amount of money and that kind of stuff. And then the VC came back and said, okay, you want 1 million and you're expecting this kind of ARR in 3 years. What if I give you 2 million? How fast can you then be?
Yeah.
And the founder said, I don't know. I don't think I want 2 million. This is too much and too fast. And then he didn't get any money.
Yeah.
Because that was the wrong answer. But I love the idea of the VC asking, what happens if I give you twice the money? How fast can you then be? That shies away a couple of people.
Yeah.
But then maybe it's not the right place to be in, or the right space.
Investor perspective is, of course, always about growth and about speed. And make sure this is a 10x thingy. Yeah. So all of this stuff. And this is a perspective that sometimes I see founders here still lack, like the motivation behind the VC, what's behind there. And it doesn't really mean that the business that they're trying to build won't be a successful one. It can be, of course, but it's just not a VC case.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And to understand that is super important about the strategy that you're trying to pull off, at least in my opinion. This would be something interesting in regard of what's Google doing with the supporting programs that you have.
Yeah.
Do you make the distinction between, let's say, VC case startup? I'm not talking about you as an individual, but like the programs that you offer, or a case of this is going to be a valid business. This might be a super interesting customer for the future. Is there a distinction? Like, of course, something, will want growth. Yeah, but in general.
Well, look, there's different programs coming from different parts of Google.
Yeah.
There's the Google for Startup program.
Yeah.
And that is mostly about how you can use Google tools, not Google Cloud, but Google tools like ads and Gmail and stuff to build a business. It's also about training founders giving them some business acumen if they're lacking it. So very basic fundamental stuff. And that is tailored to anyone who's building a startup. And the hope, I guess, is that some of these will end up being future advertising customers. Then we have the Google Cloud for Startup program, where everyone gets limited credits, even without funding.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have this special program for accelerators like Unternehmertum and Expreneurs, where also without funding you get 25,000 euros, no questions asked, because again, the quality signal is that, hey, you are with one of the programs of the top-notch accelerator in Germany.
Yeah.
Your idea might have some legs, right? And here are credits. Use our product, see if it works for you, and then hopefully you can be successful and stay on the platform and become a future customer. And then there's these budgets for startups that have funding, up to 200,000 for normal startups. I think 350 for AI startups.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to have funding from a VC, which again is another quality signal at a later stage, but also tells us, look, there's money that they can actually spend on our products once the credits run out.
Okay.
And then later, obviously there's Google Ventures and Capital G that invest in startups with Google money. But it doesn't have to be a business that is relevant or interesting for Google. It can be something completely different.
Yeah, okay.
And I've seen actually user-centrics, for me, went full circle. So I invested early as an angel. Then I was on the advisory board. The company grew, got more investments. Then they became my Google Cloud customer. That's actually also the point in time where I exited as an angel because I needed to avoid conflict of interest.
Yeah.
They grew really big. They got integrated in the Google Tag Manager.
Thank you for joining us for the second part of this episode. We hope you have enjoyed the podcast so far. Part 3 is already included in this playlist. We appreciate you listening, and we can't wait to have you back.